All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a standoff that is so dramatic, it seriously forces us to question pretty much everything we thought we knew about modern environmentalism. We're going to look at this totally fascinating intersection where physical, boots-on-the-ground activism crashes right into high-level sociological theory. So we'll explore how an ancient forest in Germany ended up becoming the absolute epicenter for a radical shift in ecopolitics, a shift that challenges the very foundation of what we've been calling sustainability. So is traditional sustainability dead? To understand why sociologists are asking such a provocative question, we really need to look at a highly charged battleground over in Western Germany. I mean, for decades, we've been sold this idea that we can basically have it all, right? Endless economic growth, consumer capitalism, and, a perfectly healthy planet. That win-win model is the whole core of sustainable development. But with global environmental crises just continuing to snowball, academics and activists are starting to wonder if this paradigm has completely run out of gas. And to see what happens when that frustration boils over, we have to travel to a very specific patch of woods located right between Cologne and Aachen. 2 square kilometers. That tiny number is literally all that was left of the Hambach forest by 2018. To put that into perspective, this forest used to be a sprawling 40 square kilometers, but it had been steadily chewed up over decades to make way for this massive open-pit brown coal mine run by the energy company RWE. So as this mine kept expanding, the forest just shrank and shrank until it was just this embattled 2 square kilometer remnant. And it was right there, inside that tiny final cluster of ancient trees, that a completely different vision for the future of society actually began to take root. Section 1. The Hambach Forest Standoff. Now, this shrinking patch of woods wasn't just your standard protest site. Activists literally moved into the canopy to physically block the machinery of the fossil fuel industry. Starting around 2012, they built, they essentially engineered these incredibly elaborate, interconnected villages suspended up to 20 meters in the air. They even had names for them, places like Oaktown, Beachtown, and Gallien. And they survived some brutally freezing winters up there. What's really wild is that to protect the trees, they completely avoided using nails. Instead, they secured their homes using these super complex rope systems. They rigged up solar power for electricity, connected the structures with suspended walkways, and get this, they even dug defense shafts up to 11 meters deep right into the ground. It was an absolute logistical marvel. Section 2. The Exhaustion of Sustainability. Stepping back from the forest canopy for a second, we find that these physical barricades actually mirror a much deeper intellectual barricade against the status quo. Take sociologist Ingolfur Bludorn, for example. He argues that the old win-win model of sustainable development has completely failed to stop environmental decline, which is sparking a rebirth of radical ecology. Essentially, the promise that we can easily fix the environment while still maintaining our current levels of crazy consumption, it's losing its credibility fast. Because politicians and markets just seem utterly helpless in the face of accelerating climate change, we're seeing a huge resurgence of ideas that used to be totally pushed to the fringes. The crucial takeaway here is that these activists aren't just politely asking for greener policies or some quick technological fix anymore. They are fighting for entirely new paradigms. We're talking about concepts like post-capitalism, degrowth, and post-consumerism to totally replace consumer society. The vision is a world of collaborative common use, where the need for necessary labor is drastically reduced and social inequality is spontaneously wiped out. So the folks living up in those trees, they weren't just protesting a coal mine. They were attempting to live out a real-time post-capitalist experiment. Section 3. The 2018 Eviction Crisis. So as you might expect, this theoretical clash eventually slammed right into physical reality. State governments and the energy company decided that this occupation simply couldn't go on any longer. This set the stage for one of the most intense and frankly tragic police operations in recent history, back in September 2018. Authorities moved in, essentially classifying those treehouses as illegal structures, posing major safety risks. And what followed was a massive, multi-week operation designed to clear the forest out before the winter clearing season even started. Things spiraled out of control incredibly fast. The operation kicked off with clearing barricades early in September, and then an official eviction order dropped on the 12th. But the true turning point, the really heartbreaking moment, happened on September 19th. A 27-year-old documentary filmmaker and journalist named Stefan Mein tragically fell 15 meters from a suspended bridge in the Beachtown village while he was filming the events. His death caused an immediate, dead stop to the police operation. Shortly after that, on October 5th, an administrative court ordered a temporary halt to any further clearing of the forest. And the sheer scale of this confrontation, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. The police union estimated that a staggering 1 million working hours were spent during that 5-week standoff. 1 million. Officers had to navigate these incredibly complex, high-altitude tree structures, deal with activists who had locked themselves inside those deep underground shafts, and eventually manage the massive public demonstrations that started flooding the area. The public reaction was absolutely massive. Over 50,000 people, representing this incredibly broad, highly motivated coalition of society, gathered right at the forest's edge on October 6th. That was just a day after the court halted the clearing. This wasn't some tiny fringe group anymore. It was a gigantic public response demanding an end to the coal extraction. It just perfectly highlights how the humbug forest morphed from a highly localized dispute into this nationwide, unavoidable symbol of climate action. Section 4. Legal battles and outcomes. Once the police withdrew, the battle of physical barricades quickly evolved into a battle of legal injunctions. Initially, the environmental group Bund scored a major victory by arguing that the forest housed endangered bat species, specifically the Bechstein's bat and the greater mouse-eared bat, which are strictly protected under European law. That argument is what secured the crucial initial injunction. But the legal scrutiny didn't stop at just environmental protection. Courts started looking very closely at the exact reasons the government gave for sending an army of police into the forest in the first place. And that legal wrangling, it took years to sort out. The official narrative faced some serious scrutiny. Back in 2018, the government justified that massive police operation by claiming the tree houses were basically fire hazards that didn't have proper rescue stairs. Imminent danger to life, they said. But fast forward to 2021, and the Administrative Court of Cologne ruled that this entire fire safety claim was just a pretext, a convenient excuse to clear the activist out for the mining company. They officially declared that using building and fire codes for the eviction was completely illegal. Finally, Section 5, the future of eco-politics. So the forest was temporarily saved by a government coal phase-out agreement to preserving those remaining trees. But we're left wondering, what does this actually mean going forward? Bringing it back to Bludorn's sociological theory, he really challenges us to look deeper here. He impartially suggests that even with all the visibility of these high-profile radical battles, we might not actually be changing the underlying structure of consumer capitalism at all. He calls this the politics of unsustainability. Basically, the idea that our society is just really, really good at generating the appearance of transformative ecopolitics, while behind the scenes, we continue down the exact same unsustainable path. So as you reflect on the incredible lengths those activists went to, living 20 meters up in the air, staring down a million hours of police presence, and sparking this massive public movement, ask yourself, is this the real blueprint for a post-capitalist future? Or, as some sociologists suggest, are these dramatic events just a simulation? Just a way for society to act out its environmental anxiety while masking our collective inability to truly let go of our deeply ingrained consumer lifestyles? It is a tough, challenging question, but it's one we are all going to have to face as the limits of traditional sustainability become impossible to ignore.